Welcome to Yisrael Thrive, guys. I'm your host, Shayna Netanya, with
Jenn Hayes, and this is where thriving is our resistance. Thank you for coming back for our show this Sunday. We have lots to talk about.
Oh my gosh, do we ever? And so we're supposed to be joined today by our guest, Mikey Pauker. We'll see if he drops on by. But first, what's the main thing we got to talk about, Jen?
So if you haven't been following the news or you're living under a rock, Khamenei is confirmed to be dead. The head of the snake of the IRGC has been cut. And I love the sound. And it's Purim tomorrow. And as you can see, I have my not today Haman, but now Hamas. And now I can put Khamenei. I should put that a little bit underneath in some like white marker. I just think it's just incredible, the timing of all of this.
It's eerie, isn't it?
Very, very eerie that 2,000 years later, we are able to liberate Persians now, just like Persia was able to liberate us from the Babylonians. So,
oh yes, I felt like we have owed them a debt, and I thought it was going to happen when we originally during the 12-day war with Iran back in 2024, and I was so pissed that it didn't happen. But I'm so glad that we finally have been able to repay the Persian people for freeing us.
It has been such like a beautiful moment. I don't know, a lot of the viewers know, but my mother lived in Iran in the 70s for 3 years. She taught English to the Shah's Imperial Army. Her first husband is Persian. And she married him. His name is Bijan. And, they would go back and forth between the US and Iran. Had my brother, Ramin. So he's raised Jewish, Persian. His father is Muslim. We have the whole smorgasbord of everything going on here. But during the 70s, when the revolution was starting to heat up, her in-laws told her, you need to go save yourself. It's not safe here, especially for a Jew. You need to go. So her and her first husband and my brother, went back to the US, and she's never been back since. But all of my life, I've heard about how wonderful Iran used to be and how free and how beautiful. And I have pictures that my mom has, and she's, tells me all these lovely stories. So for me, this is like, holy moly, I cannot believe this is happening, that like my mom could potentially like next year be able to go back to Iran if she wanted to, like.
I was just going to ask you, like, have you talked to your mom? Like, what does she like feel?
My mom is on cloud nine. She's just like, I cannot believe this is like, I'm seeing this in real time. She's just taking it all in.
Because she's old enough to remember when it took power. So she's really seen the full circle. I was born in 1979. So all I've ever known is the regime,
Yeah. And like, so, all of my life, like I knew there was a pre-revolutionary Iran that was democratic. It did have a monarchy, but it aligned itself more with Western values. And, unfortunately, a lot of people, did not know about that pre-Iran. So, or pre-Islamic regime. So, she doesn't drink, but she was like, Jen, have a glass for me. And I was like, okay.
Very cute. Very cute. Well, that brings me to my rose and thorn of the week. I'm going to say that my thorn was that the Islamic Republic hit 8 Arab countries during Ramadan as payback, trying to hit American bases, unfortunately, none of which they're all not happy about this. Okay, these other Arab countries that are also Muslim, and at least 8 are dead in a building that was hit by Iranian rocket fire as well too. But on the rose, the Ayatollah is dead. Okay, and I know we Jews don't celebrate death, but I want to say that I am going to take a drink to someone who is so evil that killed so many of their own people. Letting alone what they have done to us, with the proxies and everything. So you know what? Hope you're getting your 72 virgins coming there.
Someone made a joke like, I feel bad for Satan that now he has to live with Haman now.
Isn't that the truth? Exactly, you know? Jenn, what's your rose and thorn of the week?
Definitely rose is the great news about Khamenei being taken down, and hopefully this will be the final bow of this regime. So I'm really happy about that. So that's been a huge rose. I haven't smiled this much in over the past 2 years, you know, like for once good is triumphing, you know. I guess my thorn for this week would be the backlash to helping the Iranian people. I think what is so extremely frustrating is the fact that I have been educating a lot of my peers about the situation in Iran, because immediately I'm getting, why are we going to war with Iran? Why are we doing this? Or, you know, this is not America. Why are we putting ourselves in there? You know, this is going to be Afghanistan 2.0. This is going to be Iraq 2.0. Trump's only doing this because of the Epstein files. He's only doing this as a distraction. And I keep telling people, I'm like, look, you don't have to like Trump. I'm not a Trump supporter. I never have been. I'm being completely honest. I never voted for him. I don't support him. However, I can acknowledge that what he's doing is helping the Iranian people, and is his intentions 100%, you know, in it for the right reasons? I can't say, but, you know, I have my own thoughts about that. But at the end of the day, when you're screaming for humanitarian rights and we were finally able to help 90 million Persian people, and your response is, but Trump, that's where I have lost the plot. And this is why I'm no longer a Democrat. And now I've switched to being an independent, because party politics, this identity politics, is so ingrained now that you have to be aligned to the party no matter what. And if you step out of line, you get attacked or targeted.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel the exact same way. I actually have a video I'd love to share from Jenn Diaspora. And it's exactly what you're talking about. So Jenn Diaspora is a great account. He makes wonderful shirts and candles and stuff like that. But he also goes to these like pro, you know, Palestine, pro Iran, no, pro IRGC, I should say, you know, events in New York City. And so this is a really good clip. Just watch this.
No war with Iran. Did you know Iran slaughtered over 40,000 innocent civilians? Don't you care about that? You don't want to answer me, right? Because you're a fucking fraud. Everybody's fucking frauds, man. Now they're starting with the free Palestine bullshit.
And so we Jews have, you know, known that type of behavior right there for a long time. You know, we have a bunch of Americans that don't really know much about the Middle East. They're only taking what they've been told by TikTok and their friends, and because it's a popular stance in their in-group to take. But when you're confronted with actual reality, with actual, you know, the accounts that I've received from my friends that actually have family in Iran are that it's in the 100,000s now, how many people that the Iranian regime killed in the last month. And so what that tells me is you're standing with the modern day Hitler instead of the people that you seem to care about.
And again, what's so incredibly frustrating, especially that guy who looks so smug, when someone said, you know, 40,000 people died, he just stood there. You know, just how callous. You know, I think, you know, it is that groupthink. It's the bandwagon. It's this hysteria. You know, it's like the Salem witch trials, the witch hunt. She's a witch. You know, everyone's just this hysteria. But I think, and I feel so bad for the Iranian people right now, because they are experiencing the post 10/7 reality that many Jews have faced, where the dictator is being eulogized in the Washington Post. Have you read that, Shayna? You need to find it. It
oh
is
my God.
Remarks. I mean, I can't imagine somebody writing a eulogy or an obituary to Hitler and having all this flowery language, and Hitler really liked to paint in his free time, and Hitler this and Hitler that, and it's just mind-boggling to me. And I feel so bad because they're seeing that the other people are looking the other way, praising this dictator. Just the ignorance, and also people just not caring. And I'm seeing a lot of people just like accounts voicing their frustration, and my heart breaks because I'm like, this is exactly what the Jews have been dealing with since 10/7, and now it's spreading. But at the end of the day, the narrative is falling apart because who's funding Hamas? Everybody who screams Hamas are resistance fighters, freedom fighters, resistance by any means necessary. Yep. Now with Iran, nothing.
And now what I think is really interesting as well too, because Iran was such a major funder and trainer of Hamas, the Houthis, all the proxies, they're not going to have those resources anymore. So what's going to happen now? I mean, I really see, I feel very hopeful. I really see the golden age of the Middle East before us. I see the Abraham Accords really cementing and ushering in this golden age. I see the Pahlavi family coming back to Iran and being able to once again, be the royal family of the Middle East, like the royal family of England,
You hit the nail on the head. I am hoping for a rebirth, a revival in the Middle East. Could you imagine in a couple years being able to be like, you know what, I'm going to go to Tehran, and then I'm going to go to the UAE, and then I'll go to Europe. People can do these things. I know there is an account, Nathan, on Israel. If you don't follow him, you really should. He's an independent journalist, but he has a brother that lives in Iran and does, historical tours about Judaism and the Jewish people in Tehran. And I want to go. How fascinating is that? How freaking cool is that? So I'm really hoping that, as you said, the Abraham Accords, normalization, normalized ties with Israel. We know Saudi Arabia has now joined or agrees with Israel and the United States, which I think is a big deal. So I'm really hoping that this is a new age.
Me too. I've seen all the Zoroastrian temples, and there's so many really cool places that are thousands of years old in Saudi Arabia as well too. For anyone that doesn't know, I am a huge buff about like ancient historic places, and the Middle East is chock full of them, and I want to go see them all. So there we go.
I mean, I would love to just explore the Middle East. I mean, I did Birthright. That's the closest I've been to the Middle East, but everyone was so welcoming, inviting. It was fun. And don't even get me started about the food. I know it's superficial, just talked about the food, but like, it's so good. So
I want to visit Persia, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. I want to go, Jordan, Lebanon. I want to go to all of these places,
Exactly. And one day, we're closer to that reality than we've ever been. So this is incredible. And
I do see that our guest has joined us. So I'm going to see if he's actually here. Hi, let's go ahead and bring on Mikey Pauker. Hi, Mikey. How's it going today?
It's going good. How are you?
Good. Hi. Thank you so much for joining us today on Yisrael Thrive.
Grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, I know we were talking a little bit about Iran. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling very grateful. I think, for a very long time, the world has been waiting for this moment and this day. And it's really Nes Gadol. It's really a big miracle that on the eve of Purim, that the modern day Haman has been decapitated, and along with a lot of the supreme generals that were part of the Islamic Republic. And it's an interesting place to be too, as you both were talking earlier. Not supposed to celebrate the death of those who may have been even Amalek, which is this idea that evil was created, God created evil, so therefore we could unify. But there is a balance, and as we read Kohenet, which is Ecclesiastes, that there is a time for war, there's a time for peace, there's a time for celebration, there's a time for grief. And it's really, I think people are really happy to know that there can be, and there will be now a new government, God willing, that will not be another regime. God willing, it'll be some sort of a democratic, maybe a democratic republic, but something that can help the Iranian people actually rise up and have some sort of a democracy, and not have to live in fear. Women have to live in fear. So for me, I'm honestly belated. I'm just so happy that this day has come.
Wonderful. And for people that may not know you, can you share a little bit about who you are and what kind of music that you make?
Yeah. So my name is Mikey Pauker. Can you hear me, by the way? Is it coming through all right? Okay. Just want to make sure. So my name is Mikey Pauker. I live in Orange County, California. And that's about an hour south of Los Angeles, an hour north of San Diego. And yeah, I write devotional Jewish music, rock, reggae, and world music. And I've been doing that for a pretty long time, traveling around the world singing these songs. I'm very grateful for the path, and I'm also now studying to be both a rabbi and a cantor. And I spend a lot of my time now just studying Torah all day and Nusach, which is the melodic modes of our Jewish music and prayer. And that's kind of what I'm up to these days most of the time.
That's fantastic. So for those who may not be aware, you got some publicity back in December after an event venue canceled you for believing that the Jewish people have a right to self-determination in their own land. What was that like?
Well, the most recent cancellation, because there's been quite a few, the most recent one that happened was it was actually from Ecstatic Dance in Nevada City and Grass Valley area. What actually happened was a year prior, I was supposed to play at a hot spring, and I got canceled from being able to do that for believing that Israel has a right to exist. So that was a whole thing. We can definitely get into it, but the most recent one was essentially canceled by the founder of Ecstatic Dance because she was afraid of security concerns, even though I said that I would show up regardless if there was security or not. She was afraid. She was getting threats. And she said that you're not welcome to offer the sound healing, but you are welcome to show up and participate. So for my team, when we looked at this, we were like, well, that doesn't really make any sense, because if there was a security concern, then why are they still asking us to come? But yeah, it was definitely a challenging experience, mostly because it had to do with that community where I've performed in that music venue. It's called Miners Foundry. I've played there probably a half dozen times, been on tour with, bands like Gone Beyond and Moon Tricks, Equanimous, who are like in the new age kind of dance down tempo world. And I've played like Ecstatic Dance there, and I know a lot of the community. And I think what was so challenging was that there are so many people who are just completely ignorant. They don't understand what's going on with the conflict, and they see a person who believes Israel has a right to exist, and they're just protesting about it because they see me as a Zionist, and which I am. I'm very grateful to be one. What that means is I'm grateful to say that I believe that Israel has a right to exist, and that's it. There's Zionism is a huge spectrum. So for me, how I felt about the whole situation was just kind of sad that the community that I have dedicated so many years of my life to, and the artists that I've continued to develop, just kind of they've taken any sort of religious Jewish artists, and they've just thrown us out because our fight doesn't fit their narrative. And they don't even understand what the narrative even means.
Too was that the Ecstatic community, for those who don't know, the Ecstatic community really is more of a spiritually based community, right, Mikey?
Well, the Ecstatic Dance community is I don't know if it's a spiritually based community. It's a form of dance dance has been happening since the beginning of time. It originated out of Hawaii, and it's a sober space. Sober. I mean, everyone else, a lot of them are still like showing up on medicine, but it's a space for people to explore dance without, medicine or alcohol. And a DJ plays for like 90 minutes to a couple hours. And it's a place where people could come together and be in a beautiful, usually sober community. And some people you would say are spiritual, but there's also a lot of darkness in these kind of communities. A lot of, I would even say like devil worship.
It's like that duality of the light with the shadow, and us imperfect human beings, we're still going to have that shadow, and it's going to manifest in some ways, but as a Jewish man, how did you take that? Because right before that, you had a sold out Hanukkah concert, right?
Yeah. So the night before we sold out, a venue in Nevada City. It's called Inner Path. We played at it's a Buddhist meditation center. We showed up to offer a night of Jewish music, which on Hanukkah, which is like, Hanukkah is a Zionist holiday. It's literally what Hanukkah is. We showed up in community in a peaceful way. Even though that happened, I was still targeted by multiple musicians and multiple artists and an organization called the Nevada City for Palestine organization that sent me death threats, hate mail, messages. We still showed up. We offered it. We had security, armed security. And the funny thing is they said they were all going to show up and they were going to be protesting outside. And no one showed up.
Wow.
Not one. And I think part of that is this idea of peace through strength. When I announced that we were going to have armed security, when I called the FBI, when I called multiple law enforcement agencies and told them that I was getting these threats, these individuals who are claiming violence, they don't want Zionists in their town, didn't have the courage to show up and to be people of their words. And so it goes to show that a lot of these individuals online, they don't even they won't even show up. And if they do show up, if you talk to them about the state of Israel and you talk about America, if you talk about Iran, they would not know the history of anything. They wouldn't know which river to which sea. They wouldn't understand. They wouldn't know that there are churches and mosques and temples all together in Israel, over 500 mosques. They wouldn't know about the countless wars, the countless colonizers who try to wipe us off the map. They wouldn't know that most Zionists want peace. It's just, it's a crowd of, unfortunately, those who have been, what I see, they've been hijacked by a virus on social media, and they're being targeted. Their minds are being harvested by this anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist narrative.
So especially it's like this targeted hate that's going around. How do you rise above that? How do you keep yourself sane? How do you not let this hate seep inside your own self? Because you can get bogged down with just getting so much hate all the time, and it can really affect your mental, your emotional state. What are you doing to prevent that? And any advice to fellow Jews that are dealing with the same situation?
I got to say, the best thing we could do is find a spiritual practice that grounds you. Go to the words of our Torah, like open up the Tanakh, open up the Bible, the Old Testament, read the words of our ancestors, and you will see that what is happening now directly correlates to what has happened. And it gives us, I promise you, it will give you meaning, it will give you grounding, and it will connect you to the spiritual technology of our ancestors. It will transform you, it will ground you, it will open your heart. And for me, I'm very grateful. Like, I have a spiritual practice. I daven, I wrap tefillin. I get to do that all day. And I would say, if you're not a religious Jew, or say you're a Jew, but you're like, hey, what can I do? I would recommend wrapping tefillin. I would recommend, it's, they They are spiritual antenna. It connects to our heart and our head. It's a bridge to connect us to Hashem. And if that doesn't work for you, go outside, take off your shoes, put your feet on the earth, go for a walk, turn off social media, find the practices that are going to bring the joy in your life, because the joy, we have to balance. Like, if we allow ourselves to be consumed by these evil forces, we allow it to win.
I am so glad you just brought up sparking joy and bringing joy back, because that has been something I've been very passionate about as well too. One thing I see around me, and you can tell me if you see it too, it seems like so many of our mishpocha are kind of stuck in this traumatized response. What words of advice would you give to them in order to get out of this space?
Purim is coming tomorrow. It is a holiday about joy. It is a holiday about looking at the evil aspects of our life and finding the good in them. And to see that it's a holiday that invites us to see that everything that happens in the world is for the good, even the hard, even the challenging, even the most messed up. So I would say, if you're on the fence, you're like, I don't know if I should go to a Purim party and hear Megillah Esther and actually hear it. I invite you tomorrow to go to a synagogue, to go to anywhere you can go and be present and listen to them chant Esther, Megillah Esther, and soak it up, because this is like the protection for your heart in these times. And I'd say just keep the joy at your lips and at your heart. Find the beauty. Look out, go outside and find the beauty. Even if it's so challenging. Maybe you're like, I live in California here, where it's beautiful. It's like 90 degrees right now, and I'm very, very blessed. That's why I love living out here. But you might be in the East Coast right now. It might be really cold, right? Is that where you are? So
got more snow.
My question for you is, like, how do you, when you're dealing with like a blizzard, like the East Coast is dealing with these snowstorms, do you go outside and just like say, thank you, God, for this amazing snow? Thank you. Like, what do you both do to tap into that joy? I'm curious about yourselves.
Thank you for asking that question, actually. So, and I'm glad that you asked. So one of the things I've been doing recently to take care of myself is actually studying Kabbalah, and really thinking about ourselves as emanations of the divine, as manifestations of the divine, and carrying myself with that kind of energy. And it's really transformed how I view other human beings as well too. I also have a very strong connection with nature as well too, and with animals. I have my dog that I take care of, but I've really been seeing myself in relationship with the rest of the world as being reciprocal. I give and I receive. What about you, Jenn?
So I just been doing something recently with my best friend and another friend of mine that she's in Ukraine. So every Sunday we talk with each other, and we started a new thing now where before we end our conversation, we say 3 things that we're grateful for. It doesn't have to be anything grandiose. It could be just something silly as I had a really great cup of coffee. So just really doing that has been really helpful to I'm leaving a conversation with a positive, grateful mindset instead of leaving just after being venting. You still can be a little bit riled up and angry, but a little bit calmer now. And it also kind of ties back to Eli Sharabi. I read his book Hostage, and he made a point that being in the tunnels, he would ask the other hostages, what are you grateful for today? And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But to me, I just felt like if he can do that in such a horrible condition and still find the positive or the light or something joyful, then I can make a concerted effort to do that as well and not be bogged down with all of the hate that I just, you go on social media and it's this and it's that. And so that's what I've been trying to do myself.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. I always love hearing how different people tend with finding that balance of joy, especially in really dark times. So that's
definitely
beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Now I know that you've talked a lot about being proud to be a Zionist in a time when so many Jews are really shrinking from that word. And And I love how unapologetic you are about it, because there isn't anything negative about it. What do you say to people when someone claims Zionism is about killing Palestinians or something like that, which really has nothing to do with Jewish identity? Because at least in the way I see it, Jewish identity and Zionism really are tied like this.
Well, the word Zion means, or Tzion means paradise.
Mm.
And Har Zion is the place where our first and second temples stood in Jerusalem. It's right now where the Dome of the Rock is upon, the place of our temple. And our connection to the land of Israel as Jewish people goes back to, well, first of all, most of every single prayer book you will ever read, our liturgy, which is it's diverse in its language. Obviously, if you're Reconstructionist, you use, Kol Shema. If you're Orthodox, Sim Shalom, or Lev Shalem. If you're conservative, whatever prayer book you use, or Mishkan Tefillah, there is a central thread to the land of Israel. It's in our theology, our philosophies, our Talmud, our rabbinic texts, and it's specifically in our Torah and our Tehillim. Our connection to the land of Israel goes back to Genesis, to Abraham, and it moves through a thread through all the books of Moses. And it's a central aspect of Judaism. And so you can say this idea of Zionism, which is, people like to classify it as a modern movement that began at the end of the 1800s. However, that's modern Zionism. The idea that we have a connection to the land of Israel has been a central component of Judaism and the Jewish people for over 4,000 years. And so if you meet a Jewish person, which, there are individuals out there who are Jewish who say, as a Jew, I believe this, or, I'm Jewish, I have this ancestry, and I believe this. Yes. But if you actually open up most literature and you talk to most individuals who have studied Judaism and our people, you'll see there's been a continuous line of people living in the land, even though there's been multiple powers that have tried to wipe us out. Even if you talk to those individuals, their argument collapses on itself, because a lot of these counter arguments are built in lies and narratives of misinformation. So yes, there are Jews that are anti the current state of Israel. There's always been Jews that were anti the current state of Israel. There's always been Americans that are anti the current state of America. There's always people who are that. But we look at the majority of Jewish people, and I got to say, there's a majority of Jewish people. People don't know. People don't talk about the idea that social media is a very specific demographic class. I know that a lot of people think we have social media, but there's a lot of individuals out there who are older as well. My parents, they're not on social media. There's a lot of older human beings living around the world that just do not engage in that way. And people come up with these ideas or these statistics, or they say this poll says that, most Jews, I saw this poll, they said 30% are Zionist, and 70% believe in the state of Israel but are afraid to express it. And or when they come up with these ridiculous polls, we have to remember that who's actually finding this information? Is it credible? Because anyone can say anything about anything and they just post it online and people think it's credible information. So I would say that if you are a Jewish individual right now and you're on the fence of supporting the current state of Israel and its right to exist, I invite you to open up the Torah. I invite you to study our scripture. I invite you to study our theology, and seeing that Israel is Judaism, period. You will find that. If you study the scripture, you will see that it's in there. And that's it. I mean, I have nothing else to say about that.
So I'm curious, could you talk about, how did, post 10/7 and then all of these incidences, trying to perform, how does that change your relationship to your music? Are you more I know you were doing spiritual kind of music before, but are you doing more? Like, how has this experience impacted your music?
So, before October 7th, I mean, I've been making the same Jewish music for 20 years, and a lot of the beginning, a lot of my songs I sang at Jewish summer camps and synagogues and those aspects, and then obviously started playing music festivals and everything. But the music has always been based on either Torah, Chumash, been based on Tehillim, King David Psalms, Hasidic texts, Kabbalistic ideas. Like, that's not changed, and it's going to continue to move forward. And after October 7th, when this whole thing happened, where I had a record label and everything, a lot of the artists that I represented ended up having deeply anti-Jewish views, and it was like a clearinghouse for me. And it got me thinking, what am I going to do with my life right now? And what I love doing when I'm on that stage is when I'm up there and it's a performance, but it's really for me a prayer. When I'm up there and I'm praying, I was thinking, like, what else could I be? What could God use me for that could be the best thing for my life? And I feel that prayer is that way. And I was in cantorial school in 2020. I had to stop because I got in a car accident and I almost died. It was a whole crazy experience. Car flipped, and I had to stop because I broke my hand. I had to learn how to play guitar again. It was a whole thing. But I just realized I was like, it's time for me to go back to school. And I couldn't figure out, do I want to be a rabbi? Do I want to be a cantor? But I found a program that allows me to do both. Wow. And so I'm just like, that's kind of where my music is. It's as far as releasing music, I've been releasing I released a Jewish chant, the Shema, my own version. And then also I just put out a remix with a friend of mine, David Block, also known as the Human Experience, and my friend Benji Wertheimer, who is an Esraj player, and I've been putting out like Jewish chant music, and I have a new single coming out March 20th. It's a Ya'alo Sadai. It's a prayer that comes from Kabbalat Shabbat. Talks about our connection with the fauna and flora in the land of Israel. It's a beautiful song that talks about how the trees and the grasses sing out to God. So that comes out on March 20th. And yeah, I have a lot of new Jewish music coming out, and I've been writing, and it's been very challenging for me to write like a song that's based in, I've been trying like a social justice song, but really everything that's coming through now, it's really still all about love and connection, even with all the struggle. It's just not my way to write songs of hate.
Yeah.
I tried to transform it, but it just doesn't happen. So when I write music, I just, whatever comes through me is what I write. And I'm praying that maybe I'll get to write a song like, Matisyahu who wrote One Day. I'm praying for that to happen, something like that. But it's just not what God has given me yet.
Yeah, I really can connect with you on that. So I'm not in no league of songwriter such as yourself, but I do write songs, and I have been putting out music recently, and I agree with you that I also cannot find it within me to write negativity, because it just degrades and it doesn't feel good. And so all the music that I put out tends to be, very positive, very empowering, because that's what I want to program into my brain. When you're writing your music, what's your process like?
I tried multiple processes, but I think for me, I will feel the urge to just play my guitar and I'll freestyle something and it'll come through, and I'll keep singing that and then keep freestyling and I'll write a song. Sometimes those songs will take years because pieces will come together, and sometimes those songs will come through in 45 minutes, So it's, for me, I see it as a channeling that allows God's spirit to come through me and give me these messages. I've never been that kind of a writer to sit down and kind of write it in a way that this is a verse, this is a bridge, it's never been a part of my process. Although I have read books like The Creative Act by Rick Rubin or The Art of War by Stephen Pressfield, and those kinds of books inspire. And I always get kind of interested about how can I generate an inspirational field to write. But yeah, for me, it's just a channeling. It's not like there's not like a science. There's not a scientific method that I find each time. It's always different.
So I know you have released a song, Shema. My pronunciation, excuse me. What does the song mean to you right now in this climate?
Well, the Shema is one of the, I would say, one of the most important prayers of our faith. We sing it. We sing it in the morning and we sing it in the evening. It comes directly from our Torah, and the words of Shema, which means either hear or listen, to hear or listen. Yisrael, which Yisrael is the name of Jacob, became Yisrael after he wrestled with an angel. So, but it's also Yisrael is the country of Israel, the modern state of Israel. It's also the people of Israel, the people from all over the world who are Jews. Shema Yisrael, Adonai is the name of God. Eloheinu means our God. Adonai Echad. So it means listen, Yisrael, our God is one. What does it mean for me? And I talk about this, my teacher's name is Shalom Brat. So back in the day, I studied at a Chabad style yeshiva with my teacher. Well, I never got to meet him, but this is Rabbi Shlomo Karlbach in the back. I actually study with his daughter at my school. Neshama Karlbach is my classmate.
No, you did not.
Yeah,
You've met Neshama Karlbach?
No, I see her all the time. We're in the chavruta together. We're in class together, and we're all friends. So yeah. I mean, that's where I daven. I daven at the Karlbach minyan, and I know it's a complicated situation because obviously, just like him, he was a complicated individual, and everyone, no one's perfect. But I've been very moved. I studied at the Karlbach yeshiva in Jerusalem in Achlaot. And
I loved both her and her father's music. It's beautiful music.
Yeah. It's like, for me, his Torah and his music has been a huge inspiration in my life. And when I was studying there, doing that thing, my Rabbi Shalom Brat, he said, Mikey, he passed. He passed probably over 10 years ago. And he said, Mikey, do you know what are angels? And I said, yeah, of course. They're the, beings that God sends to us that, they're here for a specific mission. He's like, yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's one. It's called the Peshat. That's like the literal kind of meaning of it. These beings that are sent to support us. But he said, what's another level? And I said, I don't know. He said, they're your emotions. Mm-hmm. So you think about it, right? So a human being has a feeling of grief, has a feeling of anger, maybe a jealousy, whatever it may be. Okay, so this visiting emotion is coming to us maybe to teach us something. And then when we have the opportunity, hopefully we get to go to therapy. I'm a big fan of that. I see a therapist. I know a lot of people do. When we have the opportunity to look at our traumas, we have the opportunity to wrestle with that in the wrestling, which means Jacob wrestled with an angel in the wrestling and the integration aspect of of being with our emotion, that we can come to a place of oneness. And it also connects too with the teaching of Purim, which is coming up tomorrow, which is when we're able to see the struggle, we're able to see the darkness, we're able to see the challenge, and we're able and really accept it and take responsibility of our actions. That's the oneness that we're talking about. So listen, human that wrestles with your emotions. Listen, the people of Israel, however you interpret it. Our God is one.
That's beautiful. It's really falling back on the idea that we both have agency and responsibility that plays with that, but we're also not alone.
Amen.
Before we go, for any of the non-Jewish allies who generally care about what is going on with Jews today, what can they do to help Jewish performers who are being targeted? What's something that they could actually do that's helpful versus maybe just being performative? What would be ways that the community can help?
Come to our shows, share our content, listen to the music, invite us to your home. You have a house, you like to have a Shabbat event or a Havdalah, invite us in. We'll offer the music, share the content, and there's so many ways to give, buy the merch and listen to the songs, share it with whoever you can share it with. Jewish music is it's been having a very big renaissance for many years. There's been a huge renaissance of, there's Jewish bluegrass, Jewish rap, Jewish hip hop, Jewish rock, all over the world. Ishai Robo came from Israel to America, I don't know how many months ago, sold out Madison Square Garden multiple nights.
Wow.
It's people don't know about that, So if you hear about a Jewish artist, Zionist Jewish artists, just find ways to give back, and just say, hey, reach out to them and say, hey, come to my home. Hey, I want to come to your show. Start a conversation, because you also find that we need each other more than ever right now. What happened in the Great Awakening in the past few years, what's been happening is, right, maybe we lost some friends. I don't know if you noticed, there's been a shift in the tide. We found each other on Yisrael Thrive. Yeah. The Jewish content makers are coming out, we're standing up, and we're not allowing this fear of rejection, the fear of being targeted to get in the way of us expressing ourselves. So the more that you listen to this music, the more you'll find your community. And yes, let's stand together. We have to speak up against this hate, and we have to continue to invest in our joy.
Absolutely. And it's so much easier to stand together than apart. Where can people go and find your music? What platforms?
Everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, wherever it may be. Okay. Go to my website, mikeypauker.com. I'm on Instagram a lot, TikTok. And yeah, you can find me anywhere. And I look forward to being in touch. And, if you have anything that you'd like, I do keynote speaking. I come out to communities and share about my experiences fighting anti-Semitism or near-death experiences or whatever it may be. I'm available. Just reach out, DM me. I'll have my team get back to you. And I just want to say, really, really appreciate what your podcast is doing here. And I really appreciate you both focusing on, you found each other, and that you are really celebrating what it is to be strong Zionist women in this day and age. And I think it's important and sacred. I just want to bless you both, and may this podcast just continue to bring fulfillment in your lives, and also the fulfillment of these listeners that are here.
Amen. Baruch Hashem. Thank you so much for blessing us and with your presence today, and for joining us. We really appreciate it in return. I hope you continue to make music, continue to spread your light out there.
Amen. Thank you.
Wonderful. Have a great rest of your day.
All right.
Wonderful. He was amazing. Oh my goodness. I had no idea that he was in rabbinical school. We learned so much about him today.
And I think that's fascinating that you can become now a rabbi and a cantor, which I think is really cool. Who knew?
Exactly.
Yeah, check out.
I'm only starstruck that he knows Neshama Karlabach.
Yeah, definitely check out his work. He highlighted another artist who sang the Shema, and it's beautifully done. The way that just the aesthetic and it was just like the voice. It's really beautiful to listen to, and I 100% agree with him. Highlight and spread more Jewish entertainers, musicians. I know myself. Everyone knows I'm a huge Harry fan, but I am branching out. I've been listening to more Jewish artists, and I think that's like one of the best ways to support our Jewish musicians during this time, is to support them. And I know we're going to have some future episodes down the road. We are going to bring on like another Jewish singer on. So, we are highlighting the joy that we have, because we only have each other right now.
Exactly. And y'all can sit there and guess who it might be. Who are we going to be having on Yisrael Thrive? That's a Jewish singer.
It's very handsome. We do have a comment from Phyllis saying that Rabbi Angela from Central Synagogue in New York City is both a rabbi and a cantor. So
I didn't know that about her, actually. Wow.
My mom gave me her book. I still need to read it. So Phyllis, I promise, and then I'll read it and we can talk about that later. But yeah.
Phyllis also made a really good point too about when she made a comment earlier when the folks were at Nova were running and hiding. They also said the Shema to pray what they thought might have been their last moments, you know?
And I think that the prayer is so important in Judaism, because I mean, when people say to me like, well, Zionism is not Judaism, I say our prayer is literally Shema Yisrael. You cannot take it away. Exactly. You cannot divorce Jews from Israel. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm not even that religious, but I do things that feel spiritual to me, like that feed my soul, you know, like observing Shabbat in my own way, you know, going to synagogue, you know, on the days that I'm able to. Like, no, I think Judaism and people that are not religious look at, you know, anyone that participates in religion as just being weird or, you know, regressive somehow. And I feel the exact opposite. I feel the light that Judaism encourages us to spread to the world is timeless.
And I think, lastly, I will never forget my rabbi years ago said, you know, you don't have to always come to temple. And I thought it was like, wow, like, God, my rabbi's telling me I don't always have to go to temple. And he was like, with Judaism, you have a personal connection with God. He's like, I will never forget this, because cell phones were just coming out. And, you know, he's trying to be hip with all like the cool, you know, with all the kids now. But he said, you know, we have cell phones, and you literally have a cell phone to call God whenever you want. And that's through your own prayer or how you celebrate Judaism. You have that connection to God. And I thought that was so groundbreaking, because when my mother was growing up, she was told, well, if you don't know Hebrew, God will never understand what you're saying because he doesn't listen to prayers in English. Yes.
No. She was told that?
Yes. This was in the 50s. Yes, this is the 50s. It was like, it had to be in Hebrew. It was very like an Orthodox back in the day. You know, things have changed. But to hear from going from like that mentality to, no, you have like your own personal connection, and it doesn't matter what language you speak in, God knows and God's with you, you know? So I just really like that, like how you do Shabbat might look different for how I'm doing it, but you know what? God's with me no matter what. So.
Exactly. And for me, it's always about the end result. So if God told us to rest on Shabbat, I'm going to rest in my own way. I'm still going to use electricity, you know, but I'm not going to do things that stress myself out. And so that's how I tend to do it, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you everyone today for joining us. It's been lovely seeing all of our regular viewers. We really appreciate all of you. And I hope you go out there and have a wonderful Purim as well. Chag Purim Sameach.
I'm going to finish my little drink to celebrate again. Purim is here tomorrow. They tried to kill us. We survived. Let's eat. L'chaim.
L'chaim, exactly.
And enjoy.
Wonderful.
So tomorrow, your homework, because everyone knows what my teacher homework is, celebrate and have fun tomorrow, because we deserve it, and it's Purim, and enjoy.
And we're also going to be doing a special live with Owen, Journeys from Oz, and then Joy from Get It Done with Joy, and us too. We're all going to be talking about how we're bringing joy into our regular lives and how you can too. So please join us tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time through our live here again. We'll see you tomorrow, okay?
Bye.
Bye, everyone.